What's up guys, my name is Zero Heroes and welcome back to more Gates of Hell, and today we are going to be looking at one of the most terrifying AT guns and artillery in the game. And as you know, with the Finnish being updated in this massive free content update 6 update, with that came new artillery and new AT guns for the Finnish, which I've gone over in Conquest. So if you want to check out that video, then I highly go recommend it. But for today, I'm going to be quickly explaining or going through what are my favourite and probably most killable heavy tank killable tanks in this game. So if you like to see more tips and tricks like this, or you'd like to see what are the most basically killable units in the game, then make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. And as you can see, one of the most terrifying and one of the most deadly artilleries in this game is the 210 H-17 howitzer. This thing can not only just kill a large group of infantry, it can seriously be a heavy tank killer, or at least immobilize it as much as it can, kill crew off. Basically it can kill the tank without properly killing it, and reasons through that is through its massive caliber gun, which can basically dazzle crews and basically dismantle crews from their tank. Hence why you're not technically killing the tank, you're killing the crew off the tank. Now why is this my favourite? Well, because it makes craters that makes you want to cry like a baby. And the reason is that I already did a test shot on this thing. Now it doesn't seem largely that big, but this is the hole that the 210mm did to the ground. Now I know for for space wise, for actual how big it is, it doesn't look that big, but look how deep it is. I mean seriously, you can get like a group of like 20 soldiers in there to take cover in that if you're making a fight. So but honestly, this thing is very deadly and one of my favorites to the added to the game. So big shout out. And because this thing is now in the game, it is going to be under the defensive doctrine. So if you're picking which doctrine to go for Finland, go for the defensive doctrine, because it has one of the most highest, or one of the biggest highest caliber in the game, being the 210 one. So yeah, this thing packs a punch. But the good thing is, or one of not a good thing, one of the bad things is it has very limited ammo. I fired a shot there, so it actually now has only in total 5 HE shells, which can run out of ammo very quickly. It does have 3 repair kits, but it doesn't have any other type of ammo except from HE. So if you are wanting to use this artillery gun, then please be aware of its ammo capacity. That only does carry 5 rounds, and they are huge, but they are very limited. So you're going to need a supply truck with you at all costs if you are defending a point. But that is one of my new favorites added to the Finnish faction. Next, the one is the 76mm the 76 ITK-31. Now this thing does feel very much kind of like an 88, and I know the caliber is smaller because an 88 caliber is bigger, but I mean, considering how maneuverable this thing is, it can literally, if you're getting a tank or an enemy tank is trying to maneuver or flank around you around this thing, it won't be able, because this can do a full 360 degree, which covers all angles. But the only one thing it doesn't have that the German 88 has, which is kind of like a shield to protect itself against. So the 88 has this kind of like massive shield which kind of cover its crew, whereas this thing is completely open. What you can do, you can put kind of like a little sandbag down to kind of cover it from, small HE fire or small fire from tanks that fire HE. So you can have like that. But I mean, still look how kind of vulnerable you are with this thing. But to be honest, when you are sniping at long range with this thing against, Panzer IVs and Panzer IIIs and even possibly Panthers, this thing is seriously one of my new favorites as well. It can seriously pack a punch, and the good thing about this, it carries quite a lot of ammunition. It carries 24 rounds of APCBC and 20 rounds of HE. So this thing is very manageable. So it can deal with heavy tanks, light tanks, and also as well as dealing with infantry, large groups of infantry, and dealing with mortars, if there's one. I mean, And also with the range being this good for APCBC, going at roughly about 200 meters, it is very, very far. And one thing I didn't actually disclose about the 210mm is that its max range is about 359 meters or 360 meters. So that is very, very long. Where I showed you that crater is probably about as far as it goes. So yeah, but anyway, going back to the 76, this thing can seriously pack a punch, and it is very deadly, and I would happily take this thing. And because it does have quite a large ammunition, you don't need a supply crate with it all the time. So I maybe get one or two of these just to give it that wee extra firepower, so it can deal with your your Shermans as well, as even though that's not realistic, or if you're going for realistic, then the Soviets, then going up against your T-34s, your 85s, your KV, even your KV1s, your KV2s, even I would put the thing up against, it can really be a damage dealer. So, and it has a rapid rate of fire, reloading really quickly in possibly about 7 seconds, I would say. Absolute rapid thing. So another one I would absolutely consider. The next one being another 76 gun is the one of so these are the two new ones that have been added. This one I don't think is this one, sorry, is not newly added. This one, I believe it's already in the game. This is the 76K-02-30-40. So a lot of names, but this thing, I would actually almost say that this is better than the other one, because it has that gun shield which it protects its crews, and also it has massive tires, which means even if it does get the problem with having tires is that it can get damaged, so it does slow its maneuverability down. So when you're moving across country with, if you don't have a supply truck with you and you're only moving it by foot with the men, and your tire is damaged, then it will slow you down quite a lot. But this thing, besides that, does actually carry, again, a good amount of ammunition. It carries 20 rounds of APBC, 5 rounds of heat, and 25 rounds of HE, as well as carrying 3 repair kits and a sandbag to cover it from HE rounds from enemy vehicles. So as you can see, it does actually suit in, and actually suits better than your other sandbag. This, you can see that this sandbag with this AT gun doesn't do as well compared to this one. You can see it's quite covered, quite close to AT gun, so it covers very well. And with this thing, again, having heat rounds, you are able to deal with those tougher targets such as Panthers as well, or even King Tigers, I would say, or even Tiger 1s, which can be a really, really deadly force. But unfortunately with heat rounds, the range on it is not that great, only being about 170 meters, as well with the HE rounds being slightly better, about 180, 190. And the APBC, again, it being quite disappointing, about 190. Not terribly good, but not bad. I would consider that I would go with this one. If you're wanting for longer range, then go for this thing here, or does roughly about have the same range-ish. But I would still, if you're wanting for rapid DPM, then go for the other one. But again, this thing does fire good, but not as quickly as the other one. This thing is slightly longer in reloading-wise, but again, still packs punch, and it has that shield which is able to protect your crew. So again, another banger, and one of the original AT guns that I would recommend if you're not planning to go with any new ones. Moving on to the more your infantry guns. If you say, this is the light infantry 76 RK2739, a new addition to the Finnish faction, to the Finnish AT guns, and as you can see from the right, they have added a whole bunch of AT guns, which makes your decision even more harder. So if you're planning to go for an infantry light gun, then this thing can seriously pack a punch. It has, again, a very good wide range of variety of ammunition, 40 rounds of HE, 10 rounds of heat, and 10 rounds of APBC. So you have, again, different ways to deal with infantry or even tanks as well. It's not just for infantry killing, it is also for dealing if you are up against tanks that maybe you don't have the other AT guns for and you have this thing. and it is one of the more cheaper options as well, may I include in that, is that you can deal with armored vehicles as well, and heavily armored one is that as well, because it does have those heat rounds. They just won't be good against spaced armor, such as, you know, the Panzer IVs when they do have those spacing armor, so do be careful of that. But because it does have those 10 rounds of heat and APBC, you're still able to deal with tanks and lightly armored vehicles, but this main role is dealing with infantry. And because the HE rounds are relatively okay, not the best, but okay range at about 150 meters or 160 meters, I would say, it is not the best, but I would consider this about medium to short range with this, so don't expect to have this thing miles back and able to still do infantry. Get it at a decent to medium short range and it will still do a massive amount of damage when you're shooting like that. I mean, that is for killing a group of infantry. Not, again, the splash range is absolutely tiny, but you can see that it will deal quite a lot of damage where you're dealing with groups of infantry. And because this thing is a howitzer, it's already reloaded, so I would say this thing has probably about an 8-second reload, possibly slightly less, but because it has that tons of HE rounds, you are able to keep this thing without a supply crate, so you're not fully depending on, you know, buying yourself a truck, supply truck or crate to replenish this thing. But because it also does have that shield, your crew is also well protected, maybe except from this guy at the back. But that is another fabulous AT gun that I would recommend. And lastly, one of my most favorite kind of new additions to the Finnish AT guns is this medium field howitzer 114 18 late. Now this is a late version. I believe there is another version of this, but with this, again, having multiple different rounds. Now this one's a wee bit different. This has 20 rounds of HE, 5 rounds of Willy Pete smoke, and 6 rounds of heat. Makes this thing actually a very good, more of a more offensive type of AT gun, because when you want to do an offensive attack, you can use your Willy Pete to use for smoke for your advancing for your troops or any tanks, so you want to start capturing points, so you can cover your smoke with that, with the thing, but also set things afire because it is Willy Pete. So when you do fire it, fire will also kind of spread out, you know, killing infantry. So it is kind of like a hybrid of kind of using your guys to advance or to position, but also killing off enemies with that Willy Pete. But you do also have that option of heat rounds, but you only have very limited rounds with that, only having 5 rounds. But again, you do have that sandbag to protect you. It is not as, the cover isn't as good if you're kind of shooting from this point of view. One of your soldier is exposed. It is quite good with the cover, with about 3 of your guys being able to cover, but 1 guy being kind of exposed to maybe sniper fire. But on that, it is a very, very good gun. And with having 20 rounds of HE and having a range of actually of massive a range, having about 300 meter range of HE is an incredible range. So this thing can actually is maybe one of your more kind of infantry, you know, killers for at long range. So if you really want to keep this thing back for killing infantry, then this is your AT gun for you. And also with, again, having your different options of range or different options of ammunition, this thing is a well-rounded offensive and defensive AT gun, and it is relatively cheap as well, coming at, well, okay, never mind, it is not expensive, sorry, it is quite expensive, sorry, I thought it was relatively cheap, I was thinking maybe another one. This is 720 manpower, so it is quite expensive, so I would be careful in choosing this. If you really want to get this, I would choose this for conquest maybe. I would save this, maybe buy one of them for your offensive and defensive capabilities. More for your offensive, because it does have those more rounds where it just can obliterate kind of infantry defense positions and at least smoke for your infantry to attack. But there you go, guys, that is it. That is my favorite, or basically the heavy tank killers of this game. It seriously can deal a lot of damage, and with these new AT guns in the game for the Finnish, it definitely levels the playing ground for the Finnish faction for you there. But there you go, guys, that is it for today. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Let me know in the comments down below what has been your favorite unit so far as part of the new Finnish faction update? Is there one that you very much like, or is there one that you very much hate and shouldn't be in this Finnish faction? Let me know in the comments down below. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to know all about Content Update 6 and the Talvisota update with its new mission, then click left here. But thank you guys so much for watching, and Osfront, and I will see you in the next video. See you later, and goodbye.